Chapter 8 Voyages and Settlements of the Dutch. The first Dutch settlement in America was made on Manhattan Island. The colony resulted from the voyages of Sir Henry Hudson. In the year 1607, this great sailor was employed by a company of London merchants to discover a new route to the Indies. He first made a voyage in a single ship into the North Atlantic, but was compelled by the icebergs to return to England. Another voyage also resulted in failure, and his employers gave up the enterprise. In 1609, the Dutch East India Company furnished him with a ship called the Half Moon, and in April he set out on his third voyage for the Indies. Again, he ran among the icebergs, and further sailing was impossible. But not discouraged, he immediately set sail for America. In July, Hudson reached the coast of Maine. Sailing southward, he passed Cape Cod, and in August reached the Chesapeake. Again, he turned to the north, and on the 28th of the month anchored in Delaware Bay. Then the voyage was continued along the coast of New Jersey, until on the 3rd of September, the Half Moon came to anchorage in the Bay of Sandy Hook. 2 days after landing was effected, the natives came with gifts of corn, wild fruit, and oysters. On the 10th of the month, the vessel passed the Narrows and entered the noble river which bears the name of Hudson. For 8 days, the Half Moon sailed up the river. Such beautiful forests and valleys the Dutch had never seen before. On the 19th of September, the vessel was moored at the Kinderhook. But an exploring party rowed upstream beyond the site of Albany. After some days, they returned to the ship. The vessel dropped down the river, and on the 4th of October, the sails were spread for Holland. On the homeward voyage, the Half Moon was detained in England, and the crew were claimed as Englishmen. In the summer of 1610, a ship called the Discovery was given to Hudson, who now left England, never to return. He sailed on the track which Frobisher had taken, and on the 2nd day of August entered the strait which bears the name of its discoverer. No ship had ever been in these waters. The great captain and his crew believed that the route to China was at last discovered, but he soon found himself environed with the terrors of winter in the frozen Gulf of the North. With great courage he bore up until his provisions were almost exhausted. Then the treacherous crew broke out in mutiny. They seized Hudson and his only son, with 7 other faithful sailors, threw them into an open boat, and cast them off among the icebergs. The fate of the illustrious mariner has never been ascertained. In 1610, the Half Moon was liberated and returned to Amsterdam. In the same year, several ships owned by the Dutch merchants sailed to the banks of the Hudson and engaged in the fur trade. In 1614, an act was passed by the States General of Holland, giving to merchants of Amsterdam the right to trade and establish settlements in the country explored by Hudson. A fleet of 5 trading vessels arrived in the summer of the same year at Manhattan Island. Here some rude huts had already been built by former traders, and the settlement was named New Amsterdam. In the fall of 1614, Adrian Block sailed into Long Island Sound, made explorations to the mouth of the Connecticut, thence to Narragansett Bay, and to Cape Cod. Christensen, another Dutch commander, sailed up the river from Manhattan to Castle Island and erected a blockhouse, which was named Fort Nassau. Cornelius May, the captain of a small vessel called the Fortune, sailed from New Amsterdam and explored the Jersey coast as far as the Bay of Delaware. Upon these 2 voyages, Holland set up a claim to the country which was now named New Netherland, extending from Cape Henlopen to Cape Cod, a claim which Great Britain and France treated with contempt. Such were the feeble beginnings of the Dutch colonies in New York and Jersey. Recapitulation. Dutch settlements in America result from the voyages of Hudson. He is employed to find the Indies, sails into the North Atlantic, fails in his effort, is sent on a second voyage and fails, goes into the service of the Dutch, sails on a third voyage, is driven back by icebergs, turns to America, explores the coast, enters New York Harbor, discovers the Hudson River, explores that stream as far as Albany, returns to Dartmouth, is detained by the English, is sent out on a fourth expedition, discovers Hudson Strait and Bay, is overtaken by winter. The crew mutiny. Hudson is cast off among the icebergs. Dutch vessels begin to trade at Manhattan. States General grant a right to trade. A settlement is made on Manhattan Island. Block explores Long Island Sound. Christensen builds Fort Nassau. May explores the coast of New Jersey. Holland claims the country from Delaware Bay to Cape Cod.